Shalom, my first and foremost, before I get started, as always, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that root well. Peace and safety to the occupant that's pushing his word in truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect and risking their lives and freedoms to do so, definitely more so now than ever before. This is the brother Zion Ahmad for the GMS Detroit by Camp. And this is going to be our lesson going in on Esau Edum, identifying Esau Edum in the scriptures, right? Because you still have Christians and naysayers that, you know, basically Esau is not the white man, so they tell it, you know what I'm saying? But they never, they never can come with a sensible rebuttal as to who it is. Now, oftentimes it'll be mentioned, all right? In other cases, that Esau is basically Japhet. Like, I don't know how you do that. You know, Japhet is Japhet. Esau is Esau. Right? If you don't know Japhet, right, it's the so-called Hawaiians, Polynesians, those type people. Alright? But Esau Edum is indeed, without a shadow of a doubt, it is the so-called white man. Say so-called white because in reality he's not white at all, right? When you look at a so-called white man, you're looking at a red man, right? When they have any type of emotion, right, or if it's extremely cold or extremely hot, what are they going to turn? They're going to turn even more red, all right? One may say, oh, he's pink. Well, pink is a derivative of red, you see, so there's no coincidence that they're the only people on earth that look the way that they do, right? Because, I mean, you know, you always have to try the spirit, of course, but skin is definitely can be used as an indicator, all right? The Lord made these so-called white people this way to indicate who the wicked is, all right? Now, just to qualify that, you have Israelites that look like so-called white people. So that's why I say you also have to try the spirit by the spirit. But in general, all right, as a nation of people, the so-called white people are Edomites, are the biblical Edomites, all right? So let's get a few scripts. Let's get a few scripts here to highlight this point. This is this is milk, but for some people it's meat. So let's just get it. This is Genesis 25. Just hitting the point. At verse 5 it says, and the first, all right, this is the firstborn of Isaac and Rebekah, which Isaac and Rebekah were people of color. All right, brown people, so you can understand. So-called black people, so you can understand. All right, but it said, and the first came out red. Just with the Bible having the scribes and making note, all right, of this, because this was a phenomenon, if you will. Before this event, all right, you didn't have no so-called white people on the planet Earth at all. Right, they didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. Right, so when this happened, it was to make note of it. Like, oh shit, so-called white baby, i.e., a red baby. Let's make note of this. We've never seen this before. This has never happened before. Right, this was a big deal. Okay, so you can understand. It says, and the first came out red all over. All right, from head to toe, the baby was red. It lacked melanin. All right, it lacked color. In fact, let's do this real quick. Let's go. Caucasian baby. What do you get? Caucasian. Excuse me. red. That's Edom, Esau, so-called white people. Lab, alright, absent of color. Alright, so we're going on. It says all over like an hairy garment. Not that the baby was hairy, but they were comparing it, alright, to garments that, because in the ancient days, alright, garments were dyed, alright. You could dye garments, and oftentimes they dyed them red, alright. It says all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. In the NLT, it says the first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. Now, what I will say, alright, Edomites, when they get of age, when they get older, especially as grown men, right, they're known to be very extremely hairy. Alright? Edomites, they have to shave their back, you know what I'm saying? Shave their chest, shave their arms, you know, because it's overly hairy. Alright? Anyway, it says that after came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. Alright, now the baby that came out after the red baby, Esau, this baby is not it's not being described here. Why? Because that baby, Jacob, looked normal. Alright? And his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was three score years old when she bare him, when he was 60 years old. Alright, so that's that. Alright, so that's already one precept that denotes that the so-called white man is Esau Edom. We just looked up red babies, or rather Caucasian babies, alright, which, you know, when you look at, alright, these Caucasian babies coming out the womb, alright, they were red, so-called white. That's why we say so-called white people, because they're not that at all. It's nothing pure, alright? They use that term white to, you know, to denote themselves as being pure, innocent, which they're the polar opposite of that. They're the wicked, right, that the Bible speaks of when you read Malachi, the first chapter. Alright, but also, let's go into Esau's blessing that he was blessed with by his father Isaac. Let's see. This is Genesis 27:40, and it reads, "And by thy sword shalt thou live." Now, sword is a killing instrument. For example, today, all right, the modern day sword would be the gun, right? So you have to ask yourself, all right, well, as a people, just process of elimination, as a people, who are people that's you know, big into hunting, because Esau was known for being a cunning hunter, right? All right, so who's big on hunting? They go out every year. All right, who goes out on these what do you call it? I think safari hunts and expeditions. All right, hunting, hell, they'll hunt, you know, elephants and lions or whatnot for sport, mind you. There's no reason to even do it. All right, but these people they make it a hobby, all right, to go do that. Or they go out and hunt deer and things like raccoons and such. All right, get whole hunting magazines with who? So-called white people. All right, in that book from cover to cover, in these magazines from cover to cover. All right, who's always talking about guns or going to the firing range and this and that. Who has a big collection. All right, Jake collects shoes. You know what I'm saying? But Esau Edom, he collects guns. Alright? So-called white people. Alright? It says, why? Because again, this was the blessing that he was blessed with, and he cherishes that blessing. He's a carnal man, alright, to the core. right, it says, "It shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." Alright? So, just ask those questions to yourself. Who is the first, when there's, I'm trying to say, basically, Esau Edum, he answers everything with his blessing. Matter of fact, let's go here. This is Revelation 6. Let's get the red horse here. Alright. This is Revelation 6 and 4. It says, "And there went out another horse." Right? Horse represents power. I.e. the term horsepower. Right? It says that was red. Alright. This horse was red. Alright, because it is representing, alright, Esau Edum. Right? What the scriptures say, the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment. Alright. But going back here, it says, "And power was given to him that sat thereon," because pursuant to Job 9:24, the earth was given. All right, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. All right, the Heavenly Father turned this place over to the so-called white man to rule for a certain, certain amount of time. All right, it says, "It was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth." What's the opposite of peace? War. Alright? The so-called white man took America over by way of warfare. Alright? He stole the land, alright, from the Gadites, from the Reubenites. Alright? He even had wars with his own people, right? Going into, the Spanish-American War, the French-American War, and the so-called War of Independence, right, up against the Brits, even Civil War, right? That's them fighting their own people, But in a nutshell, all right, who solves problems through warfare? It's the so-called white man, all right? So that's what this red horse represents. It says, "And peace was they're out to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword." All right, just all the wars I just mentioned, that's what happened. It was Edomites killing Edomites, So that's that. Matter of fact, let's go here. What's that? We'll go in the Apocrypha. This is 2nd Ezra 6 at verse 9, for it reads, "For Esau is the end of the world." That's another clue. That word "world" is dealing with an aeon, meaning a dispensation of time. Alright, an age. Alright. So it says, "For Esau is the end of the world," meaning at the end of time, if you will, the so-called white man will be ruling. Alright. It says, "And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." Right after the so-called white man is taken down by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, alright, and the angels. Alright, Jacob, alright, the Israelites will be ruling thereafter. Alright. Because kings can't sit on the throne at the same time. One kingdom has to be taken down for the next kingdom to be set up. Alright, so as it says, "For Esau is the end of the world." Who do we see ruling, alright, in these days and times? Alright, who's calling all the shots? Right? Who's setting the laws, creating legislation? Who is everything fashioned after? Alright, everything is fashioned after the so-called white man. When you look at the architecture, right? Everything is fashioned after Rome, you know. So that's another clue to show that the so-called white man is Esau Edum. Again, it's just a process of elimination, right? You ask the right questions, all right, concerning the scriptures, all right, you'll see that there's no one else that fits the bill. There's no other people you can put in this space. That's why the Lord had to put the cherry on top and identify Esau Edum, right, by being red. All right, that's the glue, right? And these devils, they can't escape that. This is why they spend who makes up really the tanning industry is so-called white people. You know what I'm saying? We normal. Everyone else is normal. There's no need, all right, for us to look into that. All right, we got our color. All right, we don't need sunscreen and things like this. We can be out in the sun all day, right, and survive. Them, they gonna have a hard time, you know. So I actually have a clip that I want to play that also kind of answers the question, all right, of who Esau Edum is. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakodash, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that root well, peace and salutations to the Akim, that's pushing his word in truth and sincerity. Shalom. But don't go yet. Like I said, I'm going to play this clip. I just wanted to close out in terms of those scriptures, but I'm going to play this clip. Let's see.
War with nature, and history proves it. For thousands of years, civilizations across the world have lived in harmony with their environments, building societies that worked with the land. White people have always been at war with nature, and history proves it. For thousands of years, civilizations across the world have lived in harmony with their environments, building societies that worked with the land rather than against it. But white European societies took a different approach. They declared war on nature itself. From deforestation to factory farming, from climate disasters to outright destruction of entire ecosystems, white societies have never treated the natural world as something to be preserved or respected, only as something to be conquered, extracted, and controlled. White people saw nature as an obstacle, not a home. Early European settlements were built on environmental destruction, while indigenous societies in Africa, Asia, and the Americas built homes, farms, and cities in ways that worked with their environments. White Europeans raised forests, overhunted, and exhausted lands at unsustainable rates. White settlers in North America and Australia saw nature as something hostile that needed to be tamed, a mentality that led to rapid deforestation, soil depletion, and near extinction of countless species. Unlike African, Asian, and indigenous cultural techniques, which prioritized soil health, water preservation, and biodiversity, white European farming was built around short-term exploitation, leading to repeated environmental collapses. The climate was white people's first enemy. European history is filled with climate-related crises, from the Little Ice Age to mass famines. But instead of adapting, Europeans treated nature as something to be fought against. In contrast, many African and Asian civilizations built entire agricultural and irrigation systems to withstand droughts and floods, while white European societies barely survived their own winters. The entire colonization of the Americas was justified through environmental destruction. The land was only seen as valuable if it could be stripped down, fenced off, and turned into profit. White people did not master nature. They fought it, and in the process made their own environments worse. The Industrial Revolution was just organized environmental warfare. Europeans burned through forests, poisoned rivers, and polluted air at paces that no civilization had ever come close to before. Unlike African and Asian metallurgical techniques which often integrated sustainable resource management, white Europeans tore through resources without a second thought, leading to mass deforestation and ecological collapse. White-run factories pumped so much pollution into the air that by the 19th century, entire cities were unlivable. European capitalism saw nature as something to be bought, sold, and destroyed for profit, a total inversion of the way many non-European societies treated the land. The demand for industrialized agriculture led to monocropping, soil erosion, and mass extinction of entire plant and animal species. Instead of recognizing environmental limits, white industrialists kept expanding, leading directly to today's climate crisis. White civilization did not progress, it just burned through resources faster than anyone else. White people broke the planet, then pretended to save it. The same white societies that led deforestation, pollution, and species extinction now act like they're the ones saving the planet. Western conservation efforts often ignore indigenous knowledge, favoring white-led environmental movements that focus more on guilt than real solutions. Instead of restoring the ecosystems that they've destroyed, white environmentalists push for solutions that maintain control, like carbon taxes that don't stop destruction. They just price it differently. Indigenous land management techniques like controlled burns, rotational grazing, and agroforestry were ignored by white scientists for centuries, despite their success. Traditional African and Asian water conservation methods kept entire civilizations thriving through harsh climates, while European-style industrial farming drained aquifers and poisoned rivers. White conservationism often prioritizes saving landscapes for aesthetics, rather than for the survival of ecosystems or people. White environmentalism isn't about saving the earth, it's about managing the damage that they've already caused. If white people were so advanced, why have they spent their entire history trying to survive against the planet, instead of living with it? Cope.